Hello, you're watching NSG News, and this is the Hot Seat. In the spirit of Ghana must work, Ghana can work. We want Ghana to work. Let's make Ghana work. Subscribe to the channel, follow the channel, forward the video to other Ghanaian and Ghanaians, and please hit the notification bell for more patriotic views from country and people point. NSG News, your authoritative patriotic channel. Today we want to just speak on some few observations as far as the engagement and the communications and the press conferences and every comes from our president. Not all of them, but some of the observations we made. And just to make a few comments from country and people point, patriotically. Yes, we have an eloquent president, a president who we can say he's a good orator. But that on the NSG News, the hot seat especially, we are concerned, being a good orator, eloquent in his communication, seems to be giving us concern because we feel like some of the information is being given out to the West or to the world. We think we just have to deliver. We may or may not agree. Every nation have an adversary. Every continent have an adversary, which will be in the name of another country. Whether we like it or not, the world is a survival of the fittest. The strongest wants to get more from the weaker one. And until you bring yourself to that place where you become a force to reckon, either by delivering, by building, by developing, the so-called big ones or the big ones tell you what to do. They actually even interfere in your affairs, either openly or behind the scene, covertly, making sure you don't come to the place where the benefits they get for being undeveloped or being classed as a third world nation, they will not lose it. Let's understand that. And so we, on the hot seat, think that it's not enough for us to go tell the world, okay, our president says we want to do this, we want to do this, when we do know very well that we have economic adversaries. We have other economies that depend on the things that we make good or we make available to them. And every move that we will make as a nation that disadvantages them, of course, a wise person will take a countermeasure. I will. Once I become aware my opponent is going to make a move that is of detriment to me, I have to make a counter move. So the hot seat, we feel like some of the things our president says, just go ahead and do it. So you don't have the reason of any covert counter behaviors from countries that are interested in the move you want to make. Because whether you like it or not, these things happen. North Korea didn't go around saying what they want to do. They just went on doing what they are doing. Now they are there. Nobody jumps on them anyhow. What do? You want to talk to them, you have to take them to the table. South Korea, Japan, China, United Arab Emirates, Iran, mention them. Russia, India, Malaysia, Belgium, all these countries, they just went on to do. Enough of press conferences saying what we want to do. It seems like we are asking for permission to do. Just do. You want to build, build. If you start building and then the G7 or the great nations, we call them, comes down blazing, then we have a concern. Then we have reason to say, yes, you've been. But when you tell them ahead, knowingly or unknowingly, they do take countermeasures to make sure it doesn't come to pass. Most especially when we have leaders who are not patriotic in their blood, in their muscles, in their tissues, who will accept anything and turn against country, who will let the enemy in. Even though our national anthems tells us to resist the oppressor's rule. Sometimes we invite them in. We actually willingly bow to them to say, come on, all in the name of fiat American dollar. Anyway, this is why the hot seat is talking. We'll take it from the last United Nations comms that our president went to deliver. UN 77th General Assembly in the US, September 2022. We just break down some of the things that our president said whilst there. We'll major on that, but we also want to say our president again was telling the Swiss country or ambassador or one of their officials how Ghana now wants to process its own cocoa. Why are you telling them? Just process the cocoa. You think that they're going to sit down and not do anything in the dark on the side to make sure that doesn't come to fruition? Because when we start processing our own cocoa, what do you think is going to do to their economy? Why are you telling them, Mr. President? Why? You don't need your speeches. And yes, you're a good speaker, but the things you say to the West and to the rest of the world seems to me, or on the hot seat here, it seems to us you're seeking permission. Now you're a sovereign nation. You're the commander officer of a sovereign nation. Say to your policymakers, make the initiative. When America wanted to stop their, Biden wanted to stop their gas pipeline, when he took over and signed executive instrument, did he? He just did. Just do what needs done, Mr. President. No need to tell anybody. After all, the resources are ours. We can do whatever we want to do with it. If we don't want to send it abroad anymore, so be it. You don't have to tell them. Because whether I agree or not, the Western economy and economics is set up to disadvantage Ghana and Africa for that matter. Anyone who says this is not true, you are delusional. So, Mr. President, at the United Nations 77th General Assembly, you went saying, which sounds like you're seeking permission. No, I don't need permission to do anything, Ghana. Just do. And the more we do, the more formidable we come. The more greater we become. The more we can sit at the table to speak rather than being told what to do or not to do. So, here are some of the things you went saying at the United Nations. Apart from all the other ones where you talk about the things Ghana want to do now, which other nation come telling us what they want to do? They just do, and we realize things are happening. Let's get into the business of action rather than plenty conversation. There is no evidence anywhere so far that we started building things and then the interested parties, both physical and those behind the scene, the hidden faces, come breaking them down. In your speech, you said that Ghana, the African leaders plan to build the world's largest single market. What do you think that sounds like in the ears of America and Europe? And even China? You don't need to tell them. Just go ahead and build your single market. You gave it away. Anyway, economic integration of African nations. You think, we think that it's accident that Africans seems to be vicious towards each other. It seems like we just don't love one another. I don't think so. Look at Sudan at the moment. Do we hate ourselves that much? So long as we continue to be in a denial that these wars, these tribal and civil wars within Africa are not natural occurring events, they are orchestrated, we are not about to change anything. We have to wake up to the truth, because I don't think we hate ourselves that much. You mentioned not to wake a crisis wasted. Why are you telling United Nations? If you, as smart and intelligent as you are, knows that a crisis presents opportunities sometimes to do certain things, just go ahead and do it. Why are you telling United Nations Ghana will not let the crisis go wasted? Okay, so far, what have we done with the crisis? If the crisis means that the international, foreign, and Western poking of fingers into our affairs has lessened, seize that opportunity and build yourself further. To their amazement, to their surprise, the next time they come around wanting to put fingers, they realize that Ghana is not a country that you can put fingers into anyhow. Let's take them to the table. But no. You went on and you call on the global investors community. The global investors community is not sitting at the United Nations General Assembly. Private sector engagement with countries is not sitting at the United Nations. We as a nation have to present ourselves as lucrative ground, natural resources, human resources, educational resources. One of the most educated nation within the sub-regions is Ghana, Nigeria, and the list continues. What are we going to do with all this education? Just do what is done. We love to go to school. I have PhD, and you have nothing to show for it. You're poor. I have PhD. I don't have anything against it. The hot seat, we don't have anything against it. But we have so many people having PhD lined up against their names and no contribution to our economy, no contribution to our various sectors. We take pride in that piece of paper. If the piece of paper will not energize you to do something, then what's the point? We take pride in, I have degree, I have double PhD, I have double A. What? Can we put it all together and build our nation at least? That's just by the way. Mr. President said, Africa needs them. He's referring to the global investor community. Africa needs them and they need Africa. Yes, they know. Price yourself so that they'll buy it at the price you're offering. Don't sound like you're begging them to come. But the truth is, the global investor community is not sitting at United Nations General Assembly. That's not where they are. You talked about continental payment system. What do you think that is? The SWIFT code providers and the various banking systems, that is the what you think you're going to sit down, what you knowing that you're bringing competition. Just build these things, Mr. President. If the whole African nation wants to do it, go ahead and do it. There are companies that will offer that services. There are businesses that are ready to offer, so long as the money is good. And we've got the money, we've got the resources. Can we not use it to do something? And why are you telling them? You think that they've heard you and went to sleep? No, they heard you and now they are taking countermeasures, making sure it never comes to fruition. So, Mr. President, just speak and speak nicely, but some of the initiatives, let it be in-house. Let's just wake up and realize it is done. Let's just, only interested parties, especially when it comes to country. Because we have adversaries as a nation. We do. Economic adversaries. They should see Africa for what it is. Look, I don't have to make anybody see me for what I am. I'm not going to ask anybody to see me. I will make you see me for what I am. How do I do that? Right. We'll leave that for another day. So if Ghana, Africa wants the rest of the world to see them as what they are, just be what you are. That's all it takes. But we accept the definition given. There's corruption around the whole of the world, but Africa's own is singled out and made to look as though Africa is the only corrupt nation. You want to send money to Africa? It is difficult. You want to send money from Ghana abroad? It's near impossible. But in the West, you can sit in your home with your mobile phone and do international money transfer from major banks. We allow the stigmatization to continue. We are labeled and we accept it and we sing it ourselves. You went on to say this. I don't know whether you were giving United Nations accounts because they gave you money to go and do these things. What is that for? I'll just run through them quickly. But in a short, all the hot seat is trying to say is that, Mr. President, yes, some have their reservation about you. Of course, we do too, but you're doing what you can. Hopefully, that's the best you can. But if you think you can do more, do. But some of this communication, telling the Swiss ambassador or the president, I don't know, prime minister, that we want to process our own cocoa, the bauxite we've got, the iron ore, and all these things, we are going to try to refine our own materials and resources. You don't need to tell them. Just do it. Get interested parties to come on board and get it done. I repeat, whether we accept it or not, we have adversaries as far as Ghana's desire to be a nation formidable to contend at the world level is concerned, because to some, it benefits them for Ghana to be disorganized, to be in a disarray. To some, it benefits them for Ghana not to be able to add value to its raw materials. Mr. President, stop telling them what we want to do. Just do. Let it come out as a rumor. That's fine. You went on to say, you mentioned that you have successfully launched one district, one factory policy. What do you want UN to do about it? Therefore, you have 125 factories set up across districts in Ghana. Yes. Okay. Those factories, okay, let's leave it there. You went on to say, Ghana, Africa, we want to add value to our products. What do you think that sounds like in the ears of the world leaders sitting down there? America, United Kingdom, China, Russia, all these nations, Ghana saying they want to process their own, add value. You think, do you know what that means to them, Mr. President? You don't need to tell them. But you went on to say, we want to refine more of our goals, processing our cocoa, lithium deposits, bauxite, aluminium, new oil refinery. Do you know what that sounds like to them? And you think they are going to sit down and just watch Ghana process its own products and then add value to it? Something Kwame Nkrumah started, for which his government was toppled. Auto assembly plant. Of course, most recently there's a news. Again, Ghana went to showcase its culture in opening. I think Kia has opened or inaugurated or has officially launched an assembly plant in Ghana. Beautiful. It is done. That's how it should be. Get a job done and let the whole world know it is done. Right? So auto plant assembly, good. But why are you telling you then? Yeah, this one has come to pass. Beautiful. But why is it that when we want to inaugurate places, a whole bunch of cultural display and everything else, waste of time and resources, get a team that cut the rope and just go, give speech and go, move on. There's so much to be done. We spend the whole day dancing, jungling around just to officially launch a car as though that's the first in the world. Even Tesla's giga plant, there was no dancing, jungling and jangling around. What is the matter with that? Why should we always parade our cultural artists and all these people to come and be dancing and fireworks and fire display and all those things? What value is it going to add to the center? Get that thing done in 30 minutes, cut toward the center, move on to another project. Waste of time and resources all the time. At the same UN General Assembly, September 2022, some of the African leaders actually understood and were speaking in line with what needs said at the United Nations. Mr. President, I'll refer you to some of them. Eritrea President, South Africa's Minister for International Relations, Rwanda, Tanzania. These were the only nations, and some other ones, that actually gave speech how it should be given at the United Nations. Because the United Nations is an organization of all the nations. And that's where we all come and lament of what is not going in our favor, with the hope that the institution would deliver as per charter. But you went singing hallelujah chorus about what you want to do when others are complaining exactly of what needs complained about. Anyway, General Assembly is not a place for you to tell them about our one district, one factory business or wanting to refine your resources. You are actually just exposing yourself for any enemy, any adversary who sees the move of Ghana as counterproductive to their move to do something about it. And it's not good enough. So, Mr. President, the less you give out, the better. And we thought to talk about this because the fact, as stated earlier, is Ghana have adversaries. We can be in denial. That just suggests that we are delusional. The earlier we identify what our adversaries are, which nations are, and there are many of them, and strategically, intelligently, smartly position ourselves, building ourselves to that place of strength and power. Then Kamala Harris can come to Ghana at any time and say what she wants to say. Then other leaders can come and demand of us to even go ahead to say that they're going to institute a resident advisor to Ghana. At whose authority? Why that? Yes, because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So, Mr. President, stop telling them all the plans of both Africa and Ghana. Some of the things you don't need to say. Only the stakeholders, only the interested parties, those who are going to help this thing materialize, should be seated discussing that, not at General Assembly, not at your press conferences when you host all these ministers, foreign dignitaries, and telling the Ghanaians prospects. Just do. That's all we thought to say, because we can. Anyway, till we come your way. But before I go, you see, the success of Ghana and Africa, for that matter, is detrimental to the rest of the world. Because the fact is this, the truth is this, Ghana, Africa is only seen and loved. And in the mind of the world economic powers, Africa and Ghana are just a natural resource hub, nothing else. It will not take the West for that to change. It will take ourselves. And the earlier we realize it and begin to do so, what needs done, not crying over spilled milk, what has been, but holding the situation by the scruff of the neck in the now, bringing ourselves to that place where we are not just looked at as a raw material resource hub, the better for us. Long live the Fourth Republic. God bless Mother Ghana. See you in our next episode.